This podcast includes information collected from the Laramie County Library's Special Collections. The Special Collections features items on genealogy, Western history, and culture and Wyoming history. Welcome to the first episode of Wyoming Stories, where we dive deep into the legends and tales that shape the story of the cowboy state. Today we're exploring the captivating tale of Steamboat, the iconic horse that has become an enduring symbol of Wyoming's spirit of independence. Steamboat was known by many names during his life. The outlaw horse, king of the hurricane deck, the unrideable. Steamboat's legend began in the dirt and mud of the rodeo arena, but has since grown to become part of Wyoming's cultural heritage and central to the state's identity. In today's podcast, we will explore how his story and silhouette have become synonymous with the fierce independence of the Western spirit. We'll explore how one horse became a symbol of an entire state, and what exactly made Steamboat so astonishing that thousands of residents identify him as an icon of Wyoming. Let's travel back over a century to the rugged plains of Wyoming, where the horse named Steamboat began bucking his way to legend. The year is 1896, and a beautiful black horse was just born on the Foss Ranch near Chugwater, Wyoming. The horse had no name, but it didn't take long for him to get one. Steamboat received his name from an accident. While a ranch hand was throwing the horse during castration, Steamboat smashed his head into the ground and broke his nose. The broken bone was cut out of the horse's snout, and after that, every time the horse breathed heavily, it sounded just like the whistle on a steamboat. Thus, the legend received his trademark moniker. It's likely that the first person to ever ride Steamboat was Jimmy Danks, a ranch hand at Two Bar Ranch who introduced Steamboat to the art of bucking while trying to break the young horse. But what does break mean? In the ranching world, horses aren't considered broken unless they were comfortable with a bit and saddle. Now, for a horse as fierce as Steamboat, you may find it surprising that he took to the bridle pretty easily, but riding him was a whole other story. When Danks first mounted Steamboat, he discovered the horse had a skill for bucking. "I guess he thought bucking was his business," said Danks of Steamboat. Steamboat's rodeo career kicked off not far from home. It was 1901 in Denver, Colorado. The horse performed at the Festival of Mountain and Plain, unseating many riders and starting his path to notoriety. By 1903, Steamboat had garnered a reputation for brutal rides, a cowboy's ultimate challenge. The horse's career took off in earnest under the management of Charles Irwin, a Wild West show promoter and contemporary of Buffalo Bill Cody. Irwin himself lived and breathed horses, earning fame via his Irwin Brothers Wild West show. Now, Steamboat had an impressive 15-year run in the bucking business. As part of Irwin's show, Steamboat traveled from New York City to San Francisco. He performed for famous politicians, including President Theodore Roosevelt and Senator Francis E. Warren, another iconic name in Wyoming history. He threw cowboys in the dirt from coast to coast, starring on the great stages of Calgary and Madison Square Garden, thrilling crowds with his dramatic flair for bucking. But the brightest chapter of Steamboat's life began and ended at Cheyenne Frontier Days. Cheyenne Frontier Days began on a sunny, warm September day in 1897. It was a festival embodying the Western lifestyle, featuring bucking contests, a mock attack on the Deadwood stagecoach, and other cowboy-worthy entertainment. The celebration was still in its infancy when Steamboat came along in 1901, ready to buck his way across the arena. His career would grow alongside Cheyenne Frontier Days, becoming part of the rich history of the world's largest outdoor rodeo and catapulting him to international fame. In 1907 and 1908 at Cheyenne Frontier Days, he earned the coveted Worst Bucking Horse of the Year award, an equivalent to an Oscar in the rodeo circuit. The award proved what many cowboys had learned in the arena: Steamboat was a ride like no other. Few cowboys earned a world championship while riding Steamboat. He was so successful at dumping riders that the best riders were often disqualified on Steamboat. That's not to say that no cowboy managed to ride Steamboat to a standstill. In fact, several successfully did conquer Steamboat, the unrideable. Back in the early days of rodeo, the rules of bronco riding was simple. A rider must ride the horse to a complete standstill without grabbing any portion of the saddle during the ride. There was no such thing as an 8-second ride. It was up to the horse and its rider as to how long a ride lasted. Many a cowboy approached riding Steamboat with some dread. Few would bet against the horse, so consistent was he at throwing his riders. But some riders, like Sam Scoville and Dick Stanley, successfully subdued the king of buckers. Among the slew of cowboys who can lay claim to have ridden Steamboat, one has passed into legend alongside the horse. Guy Holt, a Wyoming native who grew up near Cheyenne, began his rodeo career around the same time as Steamboat. His wife once wrote that he had ridden Steamboat 7 times, but there was one encounter with the horse that has left a permanent impact on Wyoming history. It was September of 1903 when Holt mounted Steamboat's back, unknowingly starting the ride of his life. The horse bucked the hardest that anyone had ever seen him buck with a rider aboard, said one contemporary writer of the event. And it was said that after the rough ride, Holt's nose was left bleeding from the force of Steamboat's jumps. That ride was immortalized in a photo taken by University of Wyoming professor B.C. Buffman. It was a dark day in the rodeo world when Steamboat was laid to rest. The king of the Hurricane Deck had his last bucking contest in Salt Lake City, Utah. After an unfortunate accident in the pen, Steamboat was injured by barbed wire. The injuries were too severe, leading to blood poisoning. The horse could not be saved. Steamboat was returned to the place where his story became legend, the arena at Cheyenne Frontier Days. It was there his life ended with a single shot from a rifle. Chronicles of the time honored the horse with obituaries espousing praise for the great bucking horse. The Cheyenne Daily Leader bid him a fond farewell, saying, "The horse that has sent fear into the ranks of the veteran busters is no more." Steamboat's legacy lives on in Wyoming culture. His famous ride with Guy Holt is the inspiration for the University of Wyoming logo, and there is a statue commemorating that ride on the university's campus. Some believe that Steamboat is the horse on the Wyoming license plate, and perhaps he is. In 1936, an artist by the name of Alan True created the symbol of a bucking horse and cowboy that graces the Wyoming license plate today. Rumor has it that the inspiration for the logo was Steamboat and one of his past riders, but that story remains exactly that, a rumor. No one knows what horse and rider inspired True. The artist never said. The common belief in Wyoming says that it is Steamboat, and so, by the rules of public opinion, the symbol has evolved to become Steamboat, regardless of its true origins. Steamboat has become the most recognizable symbol of the Equality State. In an article honoring the 100-year anniversary of Steamboat's passing, it was said that Steamboat helps remind everyone that in Wyoming the Code of the West isn't dead. Today, the horse remains an icon of the Old West, a representation of the Western way of life, and a story Wyomingites are proud to claim as part of their heritage. This podcast contained information collected from the Laramie County Library Special Collections, where visitors can explore items on genealogy, Western history and culture, and Wyoming history. This podcast was produced in the studio, the library's professional video production station, one of the library's many unique resources available to the public. Learn more about the Special Collections or the studio by visiting the Laramie County Library in Cheyenne or at lclsonline.org.